with these super divisive, rabidly partisan politics, we're losing the humanity that we could be seeing in each
Totally.
other.
All right, so this, I don't give a, wait, see, the good Catholic girl's like, wait, can I cuss? The answer is yes.
Yeah,
It's
this is
usually
your
not
show.
when the camera's on. I know, but I'm like, my mom watches everything, and Jesus is watching everything too, right? So what's the best? But like, you're so young, and you've done so much, right, at such a young age. But like, the fact that you're only 35, and you're to the point where you're like, I don't care what anyone thinks, to me is amazing. How?
Well, here's the thing. I still care, but I do it anyway. So I was raised Catholic. I'm the firstborn. I was, good student, all these things. But I still get nervous. I'm always going to be myself. And I do have a bit of an edge. I swear I'm not on. People are always going to be mad at me because I'm not a Republican. I'm also not a Democrat.
Yeah.
But I'm just like, if I do it anyway, and I realize people sometimes do get mad, and then I can still wake up and still do it again, then it's like, okay, they can be mad. Now, that's not to say I don't always worry that people are mad at me, like in my personal life, because I do. And I think that's just who I am, because I can be a bit of a people pleaser. But I just feel like people get mad and then they get over it.
Yeah.
When it comes to the audience.
But so definitely more concerned about that personal life versus professionally, even though the world is watching you professionally?
Yeah, I mean, both. I mean, it can be hard, but more so personal life. I always get like, oh, are you mad at me? Are you mad at me? I can be psycho with that a little bit.
Really?
I can demand so much reassurance in my relationships that it's exhausting for people to be close to me.
So your husband's a saint?
He honestly is such a saint. He's such a patient human being. He's such a good guy. Yeah. And I dated horrible people.
Okay, tell me about the horrible people you've dated so I feel better.
Okay, I mean, where do I begin? I mean, like
what's is there like one nightmare story that you could share?
There's a guy that in my new book that's out in September. I used to like you did too. Available for pre-order now.
Wait, this is a sexy cover.
Yeah,
I don't have reading glasses. What's covering your body?
Hate mail.
No.
Yes.
So this is perfect conversation right now. Oh, wow.
So the idea is like vulnerability in the face of hatred, right? Even overwhelming hatred. And so because I think I've actually responded to haters sometimes being like, that hurt my feelings. I'm having a bad day and I didn't like seeing that. Like I'll DM them and they'll be like, I'm so sorry. I feel like that's a huge way out of this mess. Because we've all been through some stuff and like I open up about a lot of my shit that I've not opened up with in this book, including I had a relationship that was like abusive dude. Narcissist. It got really ugly. And it really warped my brain to where I thought everything was my fault. And it took like years of therapy to get that out of my head. Mid-20s. I was in my mid-20s. And then I was single for a while. But I also dated a lot of just losers. Like guys without jobs or ambition. And I think I told myself like, if I fuck this up, it doesn't matter because he's a loser anyway. But I actually couldn't. I never actually reacted that way, right? The way I would react is like, not even this loser wants me.
Yeah. I know, where's my wine right now?
It never actually worked. But it was a lot of therapy. And then, because I was in a place for my entire 20s when I would not have been open to a secure man like my husband. Like a secure.
Why?
Because of that. Because I'd be so worried about messing it up.
Yeah.
You get addicted to the pizzazz that an untreated mental illness can bring to the relationship. You think that that's love, where it's the fighting and the pat and this and this, and that you think that that's love. And it's not. It's like an addiction, ultimately. I would be addicted to the drama of these relationships. And then I went through all this therapy. I got out of the relationship. And then my husband, I met him, and I didn't like him at first. And I talk about this in the book, too. I was like he's got a job. He seems like he might calmly work his way through a disagreement instead of having us like blocking and unblocking each other on Instagram. Like, boy, because you think that would be boring, and it actually isn't. Like, it's actually also very fun. But I had to get to that point, which took a lot of work and self-awareness of what I was doing and seeing these past relationships for what they really were, which isn't love, wasn't my fault. I'm not unlovable. It's like, these guys, that's all they have is to make me feel bad about myself so that I'll accept these things.
So you had a good upbringing, right? Yeah. So where do you think that comes from? Because we like to point a finger and say, I am this way, I behave this way because of that. And maybe there isn't a that, but like, where do you think that
My
comes
father
from?
loves me. We have a great,
Yeah.
we
You
have a
have
great
daddy
rela-
issues?
No, we have a great relationship. You know, I think honestly, I haven't. So I have been through some tough stuff. I think after my mom died, it'll be
Yeah.
10 years ago on election day. Actually, is the 10-year
Kidding.
anniversary.
November 5th.
Yeah. So
Gosh.
that had a really hard impact on me. Like that really impacted me. She had a rare disease. It was called cardiac amyloidosis. So it's like it's so rare. So your body starts creating this protein that your liver can't break down, so it builds up in your organs. So hers was her heart. It mimics other things. We knew she was sick. We don't know why. She was diagnosed. She died 3 weeks later.
Oh my
And it
God.
was
How old
horrible.
was she?
57. So super young. And she was like good looking, in shape, ate healthy, just luck of the draw kind of thing, you know? And that was really hard for me, also being the oldest.
Wait, so you were close to your mom as well as your dad?
Yeah, and I lived here in New York already, and they're all still in the Detroit area. And this hospital in Boston was the only hospital that even specialized in this. So my dad, she came to Boston and she ended up dying there, but my dad was coming, the siblings, my brother and sister stayed at home because she was supposed to come back home. And right before she was gonna go home, she collapsed, wound up in the ICU. I was in a position where I was there with my dad, you know, being very much like a fellow adult in the situation. And I was an adult, right? I was 25. But you know, like in these appointments with my dad and that definitely had an impact on me. And then part of it is also, I think this is just the way that I am. Like I have ADHD. I've struggled with mental health stuff since I was like a little kid. I've had anxiety. I've been sad for no reason. So I just think that's just sometimes people are just touched in the head in certain ways that makes them have to work a little harder, or like the one size fits all approach of life of cookie cutter doesn't really work for you, and you need to try to like find your own mental what works for you mentally.
So I did know about the death of your mother. I didn't know why. And I think sometimes I avoid those conversations because I'm so afraid of, I don't know, like making it, creating it in my own life.
Yeah.
And I sometimes I have this major guilt. Again, Catholic
Catholic,
firstborn, all of the
firstborn,
crap,
yeah.
I swear. But
Firstborn daughters, it's like we're just
screwed. And then I have 2 brothers and I'm
Yeah.
like just a mess. But sometimes I have felt guilt for having such an easy life. And of course, it's not all been easy. But when
Right.
you compare, like I'm 51, I still have both parents. There are some health issues, but I still have them both. And so I think about you, like I put myself in the hospital with you after your mom collapsed. And I'm like, I want to break down right now because I can't imagine what that feels like as a 25-year-old kid,
Right.
really. And how are you supposed to process that? You're trying to create your own career and start your own life and be a big girl, right?
Yeah.
And then that comes to a halt as you're dealing with that. Like, are you able to take yourself back into the hospital in those moments?
Oh yeah.
And you don't avoid them anymore?
No, I don't. And I mean, it was a lot. I got hired at Fox like about 6 months later. So it was it was a lot of change. And I don't avoid them because you can't. You have to just go through, and you have to. For me, it always helps to acknowledge, like, this is how I feel.
Yeah.
This happened. This affect, because it's gonna affect you either way.
Yeah.
You
well,
can't like
you're right.
pretend it's not affecting you, because it definitely. That just kind of prolongs it almost. And I feel like it's not linear. You know what I mean? Like it's been so long now, but it's like I still have moments where it's like it hits you. And you get stronger though, and you develop skills to be able to kind of deal with it. But I don't have a mom anymore now than I did before,
Yeah.
And I wrote about it in this book and also my last book,
Yeah.
where I think that being open and even using humor has been something that's been very, very helpful to me.
I'm sure.
Because in these conversations, especially when I was younger and people who didn't know, and before I wrote about it, before anybody knew who I was, is when this was happening. And, people would be like, oh, like, well, your dad, you're with your dad, like, how's your mom? And I would get so awkward. And now I'll just be like, well, she's not doing much. And then like people laugh, and then it'll like think we can move back into a normal conversation again.
Yeah.
Because for a while it was like I would be like, oh well, she died, but like okay, and then everyone gets like, and
they feel terrible for.
And I'm like, and so now I always say it's okay you didn't kill her, and then like stuff like that, and then
What was the Mother's Day post?
Oh yes, I wrote about this. So I did a Mother's Day post. The first Mother's Day after she died, I was so weird.
So this is only like 6 months later.
Mm-hmm. That one I just stayed silent, didn't do anything. Went to Cape Cod, like was depressed. The Mother's Day after, I was just like at my apartment, and I posted a bottle of Tide in my laundry basket, and I wrote in the caption, I was like, "Mom's dead, gonna do some laundry," and people got mad. Like people reached out to me and were like, "That's so offensive." I'm like, "To who? You didn't know her. She was funny. Like she would have thought that was funny." You know, and it's helping.
Not your mom.
And it's not your grief. It's helping me get through it. And I think it's so messed up that people think they're being compassionate, but you're actually not. Like by taking away or talking shit on someone's coping mechanism, like you're actually the jerk here.
Yes.
I'm not the jerk here. You're actually the jerk here. And you're not mad about my post. You're mad that I made you think about dead moms for a second. Like that's why you're really mad, and you can deal with that. But this is how I'm dealing with my stuff and my issues. And that helps me because Mother's Day is like, you know, it helps me to laugh about these things, not because it's funny, but because it's so not funny that refusing to talk about it, refusing to laugh about it, this is what so much of my first book is about, is what gives it even more power than it already has by making it like, oh, this is untouchable. It's scary enough and sad enough without giving that additional power. You know what I mean?
Were you able to say goodbye? Did you have those moments?
Yes, but they're not as beautiful as the movies make them look.
I can't imagine. I never thought they were beautiful. I can't imagine.
The movies make it seem like you're gonna have these like, I've always thought like, but like by the end, she's like, I don't feel good. Like, can I have some ice chips? And the hospital is not a pretty place, and it's ugly, and it's like the fluorescent lighting. Everyone looks ugly, and you know, it's like you're crying. I think that we put a lot of pressure. I put a lot of pressure on myself to do it right. And like,
what does that mean?
To like do the last days right, to do like the last moments correctly. And then I talked to some friends who had been through it already, and they're like, there's no such thing.
Right.
There's no such thing. And it's not like this like people say that like, you know, sex is over glamorized in the media. I think death is way over glamorized. I mean, even if you look at, if the Titanic, like the lifeboat scene, like he would have been like not, they wouldn't have been having that conversation if someone's dying of hypothermia.
For sure.
Like in all of the movies, when the last moments of someone look a lot more beautiful than what last moments really look like in someone.
No, for sure. And especially if it's mom. And then she's gone.
Yeah.
And then you just go back to work? Like
yeah, if you go back to work. And my sister and I had this conversation where we're like, we don't know how long the time is where when people text, how are you, that they mean, how are you? Or like, oh, when do they just mean like, how are you? Like,
what's up?
We don't know because if you answer the wrong way, because if you're like, oh, I'm great, they're gonna be like, you sociopath. Like I meant like with your recent like death of your mom. But if they mean like, how are you? Do you want to get dinner? And you're like, well, you know, it's still hard. Then they're gonna be like, oh, how exhausting are you? You know? So it's like people don't talk. We don't talk about this stuff.
Exactly.
So there's no way to talk about it because we don't talk about it. And then with my upcoming book, I think that this is the stuff on November 5th, you know, the anniversary of my mom's death. All anybody's going to be thinking is important to discuss is obviously which team's going to win the election.
Right.
And I get that politics are important. I understand that they affect our lives, but I'm going to be thinking about something else too. That's a huge milestone for me. 10 years without a mom. I mean, all these things we talked about, as you can see, I still remember them very vividly. And, you know, this was 10 years ago. And how was this 10 years ago? I'm going to be thinking about that. And I'm not special. Everyone, so many people are going to be dealing with things on November 5th. People are going to die on Election Day. Babies are going to be born on Election Day. People are going to get broken up with on Election Day. People are going to discover their man's cheating on them on Election Day. The life doesn't stop, right? And I think that we're losing so much by allowing the people who have power over us to divide us.
Yep.
Because it works very well for them. If the other side's a monster, then like that motivates you to go out and vote. But we're really losing a lot in terms of our personal relationships and this real stuff that we're all facing. Like we are all going to die. You know, we all have these certain things in common. We all have these every person has their insecurities. We're allowing with this super divisive, rabidly partisan politics, we're losing the humanity that we could be seeing in each other.
Yep. The C word, that's what I call the C word conversation.
Yeah.
It's like,
yeah.
we don't want to do it.
No.
That's literally why I wanted to create this show.
Yeah.
Because I'm so tired of people doing it online and on social media, which is not a conversation.
Right.
That's a take. And then
Right.
that somebody's sniping right back at you. Like it's not a conversation. And literally to me, I feel like when people talk,
Yes.
like it softens everything. And I always say, okay, an opinion is based on what? Your opinion is based on your experience.
Yeah.
And so if I understood your experience, we might not agree on the topic,
right.
but I'm going to be empathetic maybe, or just more understanding because I understand your why. Do you think we can get back there? Because in my lifetime, it has never felt like this where you better watch everything you say.
Yeah. And well, you've already made the most important choice to get there for yourself, which is curiosity and being curious about people. And I'm the same way, where I'm not just going to think what I've been told to think about a person, you know? And we're so much about now, okay, one thing about a person that you know tells you everything you need to know about them. I go through it I work at Fox News. People are like, well, that's, you know, it tells you everything you need to know. I'm not even a Republican, which again, many of my friends are. I'm not saying like you're bad if you're a Republican. That's not what I mean at all. It's like people don't even realize there are different viewpoints on the Fox News air. There's a lot of people who aren't MAGA or who aren't Republican or conservative at all. But then also, you know, I'm also not a Democrat either. And so but everybody's different. And there's so many people humans by nature are just nuanced, complex. We're all individuals. But we've gotten to the point now where it's like, okay, you hear one thing about a person and you're like, well, that tells me everything I need to know about that person. And I will get called a communist and like a MAGA idiot in the same day based on like, you know what I mean? Because I'll have said one thing about this issue and I'll say, well, this thing about another issue, where it's like now you have to be one or the other. And it's just not true. I feel like very few people really are one or the other.
Exactly, but maybe quite often they're afraid to say on certain topics, right? Based on maybe it's their job, which is legit, and maybe it's family or friends. But actually that is the definition of, well, to me, it's just all about being a free thinker.
Yes.
And on issues, right? Not just say, okay, this is the Republican, I'm gonna go right down the ticket.
Yeah.
And everybody is Republican in every single issue. That's where we get in trouble. And people are so short-sighted because I think we are much more diverse than we like to even understand.
Well, people don't think. Like, it's not even free thinking, it's the thinking. And that's why how binary thinking divides us, as my subhead, sorry.
So good.
But because when you do binary thinking, just you pick your team, either red or you're blue, and then you're not thinking anymore because the thinking's done for you already. And whatever your side says, that's what I get it, it's easier. But you can see how crazy things have gotten. And I think for sure, a lot of it is a direct response to what I write about in this book. I mean, think about with Biden and you know, Biden saying, you know, handing over the reins to Kamala. So many of us can see this, right? But it took many people on the left so long, and this is just one example, both sides do it, but anybody looking objectively at this guy, whether, you know, he's meandering around.
Yeah.
He's routinely calling out to dead people. Yes. Like, is so-and-so here and the person is dead? I mean, the debate when he was, that is what made people realize it, but this had been happening for years. I think one of the main reasons this happened is because that was a Republican thing to say. It was a right-wing thing to point out, hey, maybe this dude's not okay. Look, this is not normal. And that was a Republican thing to say. So therefore, it got to that point. But any actual person, I mean, when he was talking about having cancer 2 years ago from the oil on his mom's windshield, he said, like, I have cancer on TV. And everybody's like, that should be a huge thing.
Yeah.
And his press secretary said, well, he said, you know, he's been affected by cancer. It's like, that's not what he said.
Stop.
That's not what he's, but pushing on that made you MAGA. And people are like, well, I'm not MAGA. So people don't even consider. So a lot of people were really, truly shocked by the debate because they hadn't been seeing these clips of him wandering around. They hadn't been seeing these clips of him calling out to dead people because you'd have to be watching right-wing media. You'd have to be, you know, and even if you saw it, to say it out loud made you right-wing. So that's how we get to this point, because people aren't thinking at all anymore.
GoodRanchers.com is the place to get 100% American meat for your summertime needs. So whether you're hosting a backyard barbecue, a pool party, a beach bonfire, whatever it is, Good Ranchers has you covered. In fact, right now you can save on Good Ranchers meat like never before. Subscribe to any Good Ranchers box now and get $100 off plus free smoked brats for an entire year. Yeah, it's more than just a great deal. It's a chance to celebrate America by supporting American family farms and enjoying the highest quality American meat. All you have to do is go to GoodRanchers.com and subscribe to any of their custom curated boxes filled with 100% American beef, chicken, pork, or wild-caught seafood. Use my code SAGE at checkout to get $100 off and free smoked brats for a year. I mean, if you need any other reason to support Good Ranchers, they're not only amazing partners of my show, they also support the paralyzed veterans of America, too. And as an Army brat, you know I'm all about that. Every order saves American farms and supports American veterans. Change the way you buy meat today at GoodRanchers.com with my code SAGE to claim your $100 off, plus your free brats for a year. GoodRanchers.com, American meat delivered. Mainstream media sucks.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, I think that's what almost everybody that I talk to, even if it's somebody I don't know, that's, I'll go back and forth rarely just because it will suck everything out of you to go back and forth with DMs with random people.
Truly.
As much as I appreciate it, I'm like, I can't, because then I'll go dark. You know what I mean? Dark, deep hole.
I totally get it.
But most people just want facts. Give me the facts and let me decide.
Yeah.
But where do you go for that? And you're right about it being a right-wing thing. I have been saying this since I left ESPN a year ago.
Yeah.
Because the first time I was actually allowed to talk. I interviewed Biden in March, April of 2021, right after he took office.
Yeah.
And what I experienced, and this is 3.5 years ago, I was like, oh my gosh, this is terrible.
Yeah.
And I am certainly more on the right, definitely conservative for most issues, not everything, but I didn't care that he was on the other side. I cared about him as a human being.
Yeah.
And my grandmother had dementia and Alzheimer's, and I know the suffering of an entire family when a loved one has that, much less the leader of the free world where everybody can watch it. And I remember, so I, over the last few years, have built up this anger towards Dr. Jill and towards the family who allowed it.
Yeah.
Number one, shame on you, because that's the person that you say you love. But number two, I don't know, 1A, the country deserves better. And when you knowingly do this and then mislead as the media, as Karine Jean-Pierre, now everybody has a boss. She had no choice. She has to lie.
Her job is to do that.
To cover.
Yeah.
But hashtag lie. That's what both sides do in many different ways. But with this issue in particular, I want your opinion. I feel like it's done such damage to our country and made us more vulnerable, in every way, to see this man, as sad as it is, if you take away the human element, to see how vulnerable we are, where he can't even think straight.
No.
He can't, like you said, he turns and talks to dead people.
Right.
Don't you think this is bigger than just a sad case with an aging man?
Right. And it's even when they tried to say, anybody tried to say it's about age. I mean, my grandfather has got 10 years on him. And if he was talking to me like that, I would be like, we got to go to the doctor.
That's what I'm saying.
You know what I mean? So it wasn't just about he's mentally not there, and anybody could see it. But we can't have these conversations. We do become more vulnerable, and also I don't just mean, to outside forces. I mean when we become afraid of each other and each other becomes the enemy, then we are going to be more willing to agree to kind of just give up our own rights when it comes to things.
Oh yeah.
And I mean, we have to be cognizant of that. And it's just, again, it works so well for the people in power to be able to shut you up. Of course, look at I can't believe, honestly, it got us. And the debate was an absolute
disaster.
When he got I was talking about this in the green room earlier, when he got the absolute softball of the Roe v. Wade question, and he went on about what? He's starting to talk about being raped by your sister, which, what? First of all,
sisters and brothers.
First of all, this getting raped by your sister, nobody's getting pregnant that way. So how is that even relevant? A. B. Why are you going there? This is the easiest question in the world.
Yep, especially on the left.
It's the easiest question in the world to talk about Roe v. Wade. Like, that's the talking point you should have. He should have just been like, yep, right to choose, reproductive freedom, and then that's it. Why are you talking about this? And it was that, and then obviously that we killed Medicare or whatever. I mean, it was completely, but like you said, so many of us had been seeing that already. But we saw it in COVID too.
Right.
With like the lab full of viruses, this right outside the lab full of viruses that were like this virus is where the virus broke out. But like if you said that, people got like fired over that.
Oh, totally.
And they did get fired. People got fired.
They did. And then you're a right-wing nut job
Yeah.
for saying, and Trump said it, right? And Wuhan, and I mean, obviously the memes of China virus and all that stuff. But at the end of the day, looking back.
Bat soup. Like it had to be bat. You can't say, I think that maybe this virus came from the lab full of viruses in the same area where we found it. To say that, but that's only because that made you a nut job to say that.
Right.
So, but if you have to be, you get too into the team, and it's the team and the party over principles that you have, then you can get in trouble with, sometimes because you're not thinking. And for me, I have, I'm a small government person, which puts me at odds with either the left or the right sometimes, because I'm very, 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 pro First Amendment, which sometimes with some of the stuff on the right puts me at odds with them. Recently, when it comes to like the Tennessee drag law and this and that, if it's a vague law protecting speech or expression, I don't care what you tell me it's going to do. I don't trust it. Because I always think if the only reason you like a law is that you like what it does and you agree with the person who put it in place, there's going to be someone else with that same power later who you might not agree with.
Exactly.
So I'm like I don't trust you. I don't believe you. So it puts me at odds with either the left or the right, depending on the issue.
What do you think is the biggest takeaway then from COVID and how everybody just fell in line?
I'm not over it.
I'm so glad. Like, I'm pissed. You know and this might be sensitive too, but hashtag never forget for 9/11. We're in New York City, 100%. And I say never forget what happened with COVID and what they knowingly did to all of us.
I was in New York, and I didn't have outside, I'm like in an apartment, nothing to do. I never drank more I'm not even a big drinker. 2020, I had nothing else to do but drink in my apartment. I had nothing else to do. And I could go, because I could go get alcohol, but the gym, even inside, the gym was closed. I couldn't go to the gym. You couldn't, in California, they're filling skate parks with sand. Insane. And trying to mask like 2-year-olds. No, I saw a 2-year-old pull their mask down and put their hand on something from this, they had running their hand along the side of a building and then licking it. Because that's what a 2-year-old does.
Yeah.
2-year-olds are gross. They're two.
Snotty little.
They're covered in snot. They're two. Have you ever met a 2-year-old? Nothing is being stopped except for, no emotional development perhaps. So much of life is knowing what face to make. People getting fired for not getting a vaccine. What I never said, and I got so mad when I saw people in the media saying this, was just stay home. Why? You're saying that from your job that you still have.
Yeah, exactly.
Just no big deal. Just close your business. That is how you and your family make a living. That a small business, the amount of sacrifices, you're working 24/7, you have a small business, you've poured your heart and soul into it. Just close that. And no help to reopen it. In New York, and you have to have been here before and after to really see it, as I'm sure you've seen, so much of what made New York so special was those little small businesses, many of which don't exist anymore.
Yeah.
Because they couldn't afford to just indefinitely close.
Yep.
Just close. Not saying goodbye to people who died, and we're just supposed to get over it, and nobody's accountable for anything.
That's the word, Kat. I'm so with you. There's zero accountability for any of it from the top down, from leadership down. I began questioning in May of 2020 when I started to learn, because again, we have to do our homework.
You have to. They're not going to tell you
educate yourself. They don't want you to know anything. But when I think it was a doctor on Rogan, of course, who was talking about what was actually happening in hospitals, where if you come in and you unfortunately have been, your skull's been crushed in a car accident, but you had COVID, it's what? It's a COVID death because they were getting $40,000 per patient if you name it a COVID death. So once you realize that there's money associated with every little thing, every little time you go and you got your vaccine or your booster shot, CVS, Walgreens is getting $40 per shot. So like the politicization.
Politicization, yes.
Don't know why I even tried that word, politicization, of all of it made me go, wait. Yeah. And then living in Connecticut, Northeast, same thing. I had 3 teenagers.
Yeah.
They were 13, 15, and
Can't
17.
imagine that.
Devastation, shut down. And to your point about drinking more, no one is better off after being shut in. That is not how we were made.
No.
To be completely cut off from society and socialization. And then, my kids' school, it's a very nice area. And then we have kids that are bussed in from Hartford who, that was their only meal.
Yeah.
That was their only everything. So it's one of the only things I get really pissed about.
Me too.
Because it to me, call me a conspiracy theorist, 100%. I absolutely think that so much of this was intentional.
I'm not over the fact, I feel like it doesn't even matter what you think about like how it happened or this and that. The fact that it did, in terms of the rules that they put in place, it was illegal to open have a restaurant or a gym. You couldn't decide to take that risk for yourself. And the fact that they could do that, and it's not scary to people, is something that I really don't understand.
Look at the first responders. Look at so many people here who were fired for not taking it. I took it to keep my job. I was forced to keep my job, and I was devastated to have to do it as a...
I had no choice either.
Yeah.
In New York, we had no choice.
You had no choice, right.
You had to just do it.
But then I said something about it, even though I complied, and that's what got me in trouble.
And you did get in trouble, I remember that.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, again, freedom of speech, right?
Yeah.
Because if I had said, you know what, you anti-vaxxer, you're a piece of shit, then I would have been celebrated for that, right? So it depends on what your opinion is. To me, I think based on how we all were sheep and fell in line because we had bills to pay and a family to support, whatever the reasoning was that we gave in if we didn't want to do it, what happens next time? Because unfortunately, I believe the bad people saw how easily we got sucked in. And so if there is another time, like what does that look like for us?
Yeah, I mean, I would people even, I think some people liked it. I think there was never an easier time to be like a good person. Like you could be like a good person just because you're sitting at home watching TV all day.
Yeah.
You're like, I'm so much better than you who wants to open your business back up just by sitting at home. And I think that sanctimoniousness, people get high on that. And it was never easier than, to be like, I'm better than you because I'm at home. I think that was part of it. I think being, afraid to question things was part of it. I mean, the fact that Anthony Fauci, like, he just admits, like, it was arbitrary. He makes, like...
6 foot.
Yeah, 6 foot arbitrary. People really had real impacts. People still have real impacts on their life because of this stuff.
How about the suicide rates?
Yeah.
I mean, skyrocketed. You talk about being so concerned about the Black community and young people in the Black community. The suicide rate skyrocketed completely. You look at the learning for younger kids, and something so simple as when you have masks on. I didn't realize how much of a lip reader I was until I couldn't see people's lips, And for little kids, especially learning to speak and like, they're 2 years behind. You know what I mean? My daughter didn't get her prom. Like things that are...
when you said 17, I was like, that's a big year.
Oh my gosh, things that you don't get back to really walk at your graduation,
Yeah.
Things that are such a big deal, right? When you're a teen, it's the rites of passage.
But you're a murderer for thinking that. Like, it wasn't just like, I disagree with you. It was like, you don't give a shit about vulnerable people. And you're a murderer. And like, you killed my grandma. And it's like, can we? You can't. What can you say then? You can't really say anything.
That's why people.
And that's
line
why
up.
people lined up.
So if there were, God forbid, something like this again, what happens differently in New York City? Because I know there's a lot of people here who think like you.
Yeah.
How do you think it would be different?
I hope it would be, because I remember my dumb ass. Like, I also thought the vaccine would work. I was like, I'm not gonna get COVID. I've had COVID like 4 times that I know of. You know what I mean? I'm not testing every single day. Because some of the times I didn't have symptoms, and I found out because I tested positive at work, and they were like, Kat, you gotta go home. You know what I mean? And then I had people filling in for me who were sick but testing negative and then later tested positive.
Of course, it's
I mean, the whole thing. And it was like the whole thing. It was like all these things put in place by whoever who doesn't, the experts who.
Did you ever do the drive-through nose swabs?
Yeah. I did. I never did those.
Drive-through. And then they were like bitter, mean people because if that's what their job was. And they shut like, I cried a couple times because I'm like, okay, you just touched my brain with that.
Oh,
like,
those were painful. The PCRs were definitely painful.
And that's what I think I get this feeling inside where I'm like, don't ever do that to me. And the bigger issue is that the trust now is gone. Like I was one of those people who trusted. I trusted doctors. I trusted the medical profession. I trusted my bosses. I trusted my leadership. It's all gone. And I think that's something that is an intangible effect that trickles into every aspect.
I think it does for me, and I think that it should. I've never really had a lot of trust in the systems, and this really honestly made it a lot worse. I mean, there's also people didn't go seek medical treatment for other, like COVID wasn't the only thing that could kill you or you get sick from. I mean, the list goes on and on and on, and I think people shouldn't forget that.
Yeah,
That's why it's like if I disagree with someone on something, I'm never like, you're crazy for thinking that, because it's like, what are you crazy for thinking at this point? You know what I mean? Like, feel free to think whatever you want as long as we can respect each other.
Yes.
That's really what it comes down to for me.
It's just, but it's okay to question. Mm-hmm. It doesn't mean that you're anti this or that. It's just to be educated and, not just for yourself, for your kids, for your loved ones, for whomever. And what I did find, though, by questioning and by bringing things up, I had so many people who were quietly like, but am I right? And I'm like, I get the fear. I'm an example of why there's fear. Like, I'm a perfect example. Like, just stay quiet because you'll get canceled. But then you're like, wait, I woke up the next day.
Yep.
I'm still here.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I hope is that people can see, many of us with loud mouths and just be like, okay, it is scary and you might get fired. And I wasn't fired, but it changed the trajectory of my career and I ended up filing a lawsuit and it was ugly, right? But there are costs, certainly, and risks to standing up, to saying what you feel, what you believe.
And you know what's so messed up is I think every single human being out there has someone in their family, maybe it's an extended family, maybe it's a friend, who's like the kooky aunt and uncle, right?
Yeah.
Who, but you love them anyway.
Yeah.
Or they have someone in their life who's made a mistake,
sure,
who's gotten in trouble for doing something, and they're like, oh, but they're doing better now, and you love them. It's, for whatever reason, impossible to see that the people we see in headlines are also people with like families and lives. And I think it's so interesting that there's never been more, lip service done to like mental health.
right?
Like mental health, like your mental health's important, and it's like whenever anything they'll be like, well, awareness graphics of like, reach out if you ever need help, completely ignoring the fact that as someone who's struggled with at times in my life mental health issues, speaking for myself and for many people who I have told me they agree with me when I've said this, when you are going through a mental health crisis, you're the last person anyone wants to be around.
Mm.
When you're depressed, when you're going through it, like I don't know how people could stand me enough to be there for me, right? And it doesn't look pretty like the awareness graphics when you're going through something. It looks ugly. It looks like a lot of the stuff in the headlines that we see people judge them for. And with all the lip service we pay to mental health, we have never been less forgiving of one another. And we have never been less understanding of someone saying, I fucked up. I am sorry. I have taken these steps. I have learned this. I was going through this. I made this mistake. Or it's like, okay, you said this, you did this, you're done.
Right.
But that affects so much more than just the person.
Mm-hmm.
They're actually, anybody who may have said something similar, done something similar, they think like, oh my, like, could that be me? Could all these comments apply to me? And I write about this in my new book, actually. There are people, there's been this manifestation among, some mental health professionals of OCD related to fear of being canceled. And it makes sense.
It totally makes sense.
Because you see this happening and everybody's made a mistake. Yep. So I feel like we'd be a lot better off if we could say, and that doesn't, there should be accountability if you say something wrong, if you do something wrong, there should be accountability, but it should be accountability for your actions and not accountability for your being. Like you should be allowed to, I think there's such a difference between
actions, your words,
and your actual worth as a human being who's allowed to exist in society. Those should be, you can be held accountable for your actions and for what you said. You shouldn't have to like be accountable for like why you still are alive in society. That's such a different thing. And we all know how to do that in our personal lives.
Yeah.
We all know how to do it with our family and friends. We don't somehow, for whatever reason, know how to do that in part of the larger conversation. I think that's part of the reason why people are so miserable.
No, I totally agree. I think grace is a big word for me these days.
Yes.
And again, just understanding that everybody's opinions come from what they've been through, and we don't know what they've been through, despite what it looks like on social media. And so just to have that grace. And sometimes I'll get mad, right? Like, you know, if someone's really rude and cuts you off in the grocery store or something, it's like I want to say something, and sometimes I'm like, excuse me.
Yeah.
No problem. You know, I'll have my sarcastic whatever. At other times it's like, maybe there's a huge reason why they're rushing, which is never, I always say to my kids too, bad behavior. There's never an excuse, but there might be a reason.
Yeah, I mean, even
what they're going through.
I wrote about this actually when I talked about mental health in the new book. This was last summer. I was very briefly on Accutane, and like, I guess the research is mixed on whether it makes you want to kill yourself or not, but it did make me want to kill myself. It actually.
So for skin?
Yes, I get like cysts under the skin, and I still kind of do, but I was supposed to be on it for a little bit, take care of the issue. It made me so depressed. It made, and again, research is mixed, but this was my experience. I was so depressed. The final straw was I was on the floor in the bathroom sobbing. My husband found about how everyone was gonna die in my life, and I was gonna die too, which is always been true, but it never like elicited that kind of reaction from me, where he was like, we're done with this. We're not. And so, but for that time and for the month where it was working its way out of my system, I wasn't myself. And when I was on the show, people kind of noticed that. And I was getting messages from people that were like, if you think you're too good for the show, just leave. Like, if you think you don't want to be there, just leave. Because I guess I didn't look like I was having fun for that time as much as I usually do. It showed in my work, I guess. Like, I've always struggled with depression and anxiety. This was another level. I mean, I was just miserable.
Or had there been any warnings?
Yes, there are.
Really? I didn't know that.
But they say research is mixed on it. I also know a lot of people who it worked great for. So I guess it just depends on the individual. For me, worst drug to do. I could do any drug that would probably be better than Accutane for me. But people were, finally I got a DM from a woman that was like, you know, I used to like you until, that's the name of it. I used to like you until the past couple of months. You did it over the past month. I was like, hey, so just, I don't know why I'm responding to you, but like, I was on Accutane. It's working with my system. And like, I want to die all the time. So that's why I don't look like I'm having a good time. And then they're like, oh man, I'm so sorry. Right? But you don't know. Like, what you were seeing is me looking like I was too good for the show. It was actually me feeling like the earth was too good for me. Right? I was miserable. And it worked its way out of my system. I still have like my baseline level of anxiety and depression and ADHD that I deal with, but I'm not in that dark, dark place. That was just one of like, I'm not the only person that's ever gone through something like that, right? But people are so willing to assign the least charitable interpretation of what they see.
Yes.
And it's like, no. I hate myself more than you hate me, Tressie. Like right now, I'm going through this thing. And if we could just, like you said, I don't know why this person's doing this, or maybe this, and that's not to say that there's never a reason to like write a person off. There are reasons, but to just so willingly assign the least charitable interpretation when you have no idea is just tearing us apart so much, so unnecessarily.
Absolutely. And just to remember the human, whether it's with you on Gutfeld or on with Joe Biden.
Yeah.
To know the human side of it, not any other part of it. You know, it's you've been through a lot.
Yeah.
And you know,
yes, I have.
And you laugh.
I laugh, but it is funny. Like it's the amount of like the fact that I had the ileostomy bag, like who does that happen to under the age of 80, right?
So this is yes. And that like explain that to people. First of all, when you said it, and I've heard you talk about it before, I'm like, what is that? So I want to know exactly what the illness was and then the effects from it, because it almost killed you.
It almost killed me. Yeah, this was in 2020. I had a bowel perforation. I think probably was from like a colonoscopy where something got nicked. It can be caused by a number of things. It's like very, very rare for this to happen. It's like 0.0001% of people. But that's somebody. And it was me. I have like no underlying issues, thankfully. I had really, really bad stomach pain. I went to the ER. My husband was like, "You're crazy," and I am a bit of a hypochondriac, and I am dramatic. So like, I'm dramatic as fuck. So like, he had he has a point, right? But he felt really bad when they were like, "Well, like," I was like, "I'm dying." I told him I was like, "I'm dying," because when I had this CT scan, I had trouble standing, when I had the X-ray, I had trouble standing. But when I got time for the CT scan, I couldn't roll myself on the table. I was like, I didn't know why, but I was like, I'm rapidly deteriorating. I'm dying. And he was like, "What do you want for lunch when we get home? Like, stop." Which, like, I get it, because like I am that girl, where I'm like, ugh, like I am very dramatic, you know. I'm a performer. What can I say? But I was right. Like they were like, you need an ileostomy, emergency ileostomy. I know what that was. It's a shit bag. So it's a shit bag. And what I didn't realize, so they immediately wheeled me into surgery because like if you have a hole in your colon that's like fecal matters in your bloodstream, like you become septic, you die. I came so close to dying, I didn't realize. So after I got out of surgery, because I like hadn't even Googled it, it's just your small intestine out of your stomach with a bag over it.
Wait, so when you say came close to dying, so it was seeping into your system, and so they went in for surgery. Like they could tell that obviously right before to say we got it.
Yeah. So they had to. Yeah. So like what they do is they pull your small intestine out. Trigger warning: this is disgusting. If anybody's eating any food watching this, they pull your small intestine out of a hole in your stomach, so that it bypasses the colon. The waste bypasses the large intestine. I learned a lot about biology by having it happening right in front of me. And they have a bag, you have a bag around it. So it just all comes out your small intestine. And it's like liquid. It's not like really poop. But like, I didn't want to tell anybody either. And I told pretty much no one that I was going through this because there's like no chill way to have a conversation. So a lot of people at Fox found out when my first book came out that this had even happened to me. But
so from the surgery to when you went back to work
weeks. I went back, a week. I went back with a poop bag. I went to work.
Why
on TV
did you go back to work so fast, though? I mean, that's a major surgery.
Yeah, it was a major surgery. After the first surgery, it was about a week, and then the second surgery was about 2 weeks because putting it back in I had some complications. But I went back because it was good to have my mind on something else, I guess.
I get that.
Greg knew. He knew. I told him. I mean, Tyrus knew. They knew. But like all the guests on the show didn't know, you know. Hair and makeup didn't know. A lot of people didn't know. But it really brought me closer to my husband as well. He still had sex with me,
with the bag,
which I was like, we were engaged, not married. So I was like, this is
where exactly?
So there was a belt to like hold it in place. It would be like right here. He was like still attracted to me, and I was like, "That's why
I love him."
Yeah, I know, me too. But also, if like anybody on the internet ever calls me ugly, I'm like, okay, somebody had sex with me when I had a poop tube, so I can't be that ugly.
You're ridiculous.
I can't be that ugly, truly.
Okay, maybe for 10 years into your marriage, not as much, but you were still engaged. So of
yeah,
course
I get right. But I was like, I'm making the right call. I'm like, because it was really gross. It was really, really gross. But you just get through. And again, I had to laugh about it. Had to make jokes about it.
Of course.
I mean,
Are there any lingering effects?
No. I mean, I have a big scar, but I think it's fine. Like who cares? I mean.
So when did you come to the realization as to how close it was that it almost killed you?
When I was in the hospital, I started like researching a little bit.
After they've cut you open, you're like, oh, this is what.
I thought it was going to be like a valve. I thought there was going to be like a device that I didn't know. I mean, who knows about this stuff? So I didn't realize it was my intestine.
You think that's how it's happened?
I think, but there's really no way to know. Like it's just the small like minuscule percentage of things that happen. Just like my mom's rare illness was super rare. It's like rare stuff happens to somebody, and that's versus me a lot. But I've also been so lucky. I mean, I've been so unlucky, but I've also been so lucky. I mean, when I was in college, everyone's like, "What do you want to do when you grow up?" Like after college, I was like, "I want to work with Greg Gutfeld," and now I do.
You actually said that?
Yes, I did.
Why?
Because I loved Red Eye. I was one of those. Back when I was a cashier at Boston Market, and I was like, living with my college boyfriend in LA, and I was an intern at Fox News. We'd watch it at his brother's house, and I'd be like, I'd be so good on that show. His brother would be like, "You're a cashier at Boston Market. Like, good luck."
Quarter dark chicken.
Yeah,
right
exactly.
There, corn on the cob.
Exactly. So. I mean,
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so that
awesome.
was a very specific goal.
Yes,
was for me to be on Red Eye, and then within a couple of years, I'm like on his new show. So I've been very unlucky, but I've also been very lucky. Like a lot of times when I hear statistics, I'm like, okay, but you don't understand. Like they don't apply to me.
Yeah.
Like no statistic of like, but this percentage will be okay. after both, but also, do you know how hard this is to do? That also doesn't. I'm like, yeah, I can watch me, So it's made me very pessimistic and also very optimistic. The fact that my life has just defied what odds are supposed to be in terms of success, but also in terms of, operations
Yeah, like
and
real
medical
life health.
abnormalities. Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. So you were how old when you got on Gutfeld?
So I was 26. I was just turned 26.
This is literally a couple years after you said that.
Yeah. Yeah. I got on Reddit for the first time when I was like 24.
How'd you do it? Like, I know it's a long story. One thing leads to another.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, to do it at that level, at that age, does not happen.
No.
Defying the odds.
No, it doesn't happen. And I mean, I kind of just created my own opportunities. I mean, I started work. I would go do man on the street videos.
Yeah, that's right.
I made some of them nobody saw, and like we're terrible.
Yeah.
Like do it, and if it's bad, it's fine. Like I have stuff out there that's bad that I've done that it's like not good, right? Like I've watched it. This isn't good, but I have stuff that's turned out great. I had this video where I went to a feminist conference and was asking people what being a feminist meant to them. And it was my ex-boyfriend was the dude with the camera filming this, like my ex-boyfriend's friend. It was like very low budget operation. But people started physically blocking me because they found out I worked at like Campus Reform. And I also do consider myself a feminist. I'm a salt and pepper feminist. Like the empowered of like, you can't say, get mad at me for who I sleep with. And like women can like, look at what we can do. And calling out sexism but not being defined by it.
Yes.
So I say I'm a salt and pepper feminist. That's what I'm just,
Yeah,
that's
I
like
kinda
how I
love that.
describe myself. But so
Can you define a woman?
see, the thing is, the way that question was answered, I write about that in my first book, that is based on the two teams too, and that's based on being afraid.
Mm-hmm.
That's based on, because that's the dumbest answer ever. She could have said, a woman is a person with these chromosomes, but also there's people who identify as women who were not born that way, and gender and sex are different. They could have said that, but just like, oh, I'm not a biologist, because she's not an idiot. You don't get to that hearing because you're an idiot.
Exactly.
She heard like in her head, like approaching like trans stuff, like alarm bells, like gonna get canceled. Like, have you ever seen that video of Rihanna that's on, like, when she's talking about her like underwear line, and she's like trying so hard, and she's like, and it's for all like gender identities and the pronouns, and like people, it's like, because you can't, and people, it's that's how that happens, is people just being so afraid of getting canceled that you can't just have those conversations. You can say and there's also people who say that. But no, she's like, I can't, like, I'm not touching that. Like, that's too crazy, right? But yeah, so that video went viral on Fox, obviously. That went viral. And then I was on like Greta Van Susteren show. That's how long ago this was.
Yeah, wow.
And he was like, she looks weird. He was like, let's have her on Red Eye. She just like looks weird.
Such a compliment.
That's what he said to the producer.
It sounds like something he would say.
To the producer. And then like he had me on, and the rest is it. We just hit it off. The rest is history.
It's amazing.
And I pretended to be confident. I was like, because I'd seen the show, so I was so nervous.
Plus, you know that you're like the kid on the set.
Oh, I was living in like this horrible apartment in Harlem, like horrible. Like we had like vermin issues, like bad horrible. Like what, like around, like my subway stop was 125th and Lex. So like that's,
For non-New Yorkers, that means what?
That means like, so even the Lou Reed song about heroin, up to Lexington, 125, feel sick and dirty, more dead than alive. Like those are my neighbors.
That's my hood.
Yeah, so
wow.
I was like, this is so important. I was like, this is like the top, but I didn't act like that. I like threw up before because I was so nervous. But then I walked in and like, I were able
to flip that
I
switch.
pretended to be confident. You know?
Which, hey, that's half the game.
Yes.
How many times have I done that?
Yeah.
Pretty much my whole career. Because there's always going to be doubts. That's because you care. You care about the job that you're doing for yourself, for others, and especially when we're younger, like what others think too. But this is so fascinating to me because, by the way, Hillsdale College.
Yeah.
Like of all colleges for you to go to,
I know.
a super conservative.
I know.
Christian Catholic, like.
So it wasn't Christian when I went there. It is now.
Okay.
And, I'm not religious. I wish I were, but I'm not.
Well, what do you mean you wish you were? But you could choose to be.
I can't.
What do you mean?
I don't. So I'm totally agnostic. I'm not an atheist, but I'm also not religious. I just don't know. I don't know. I could see there being something else or greater. I don't know what that is. I can't even parallel park. Like, how am I supposed to know the answers to all the mysteries of the universe? I think I would be happier if I thought there was like something after this for sure, and that I wasn't just gonna keep getting like older and older until I'm like eventually so ugly and decrepit and unfuckable and then I die.
No,
that's
your husband.
That's true.
considering what-
That's true. That's
It sounds
true.
like he always will.
That's true. But so I think I don't judge religious people. I actually
Right.
admire it. I think it's like you're lucky, I think, if you're
No,
religious.
but don't you think that's a choice?
Not for me.
So, but knowing you and knowing how much homework you do,
Mhm.
I mean, you could research a whole bunch of stuff and maybe you find something that you are on board with that would not make you, but make you want to.
Yeah.
No?
Yeah, and I just haven't gotten there, but I don't rule it out for my future.
Right. Interesting.
Like the door is very much open. I don't rule it
Interesting.
out. Because there's things where it's like it could just as easily be, there's this one moment where my mom was very Catholic. She was very Catholic. She's also very cool and like very funny and like really
Yes.
crass.
Yeah.
She's a great example of a person like can't put into a box, right?
Yeah.
So she was so Catholic. That was a huge point of contention in our relationship. And I write about this again in the next book, which again, it's like, because what greater binary is there but like heaven, hell? Like religion is a lot of binaries, right? And I know that like a lot of people who aren't religious like me wouldn't be able to say this, but I understand why that was such a big deal for her.
Yes.
Because, I watched her dying and she was like cool with it. Because she was like, I got to see, But so after she died, the Pope was in New York a couple months after she died. And I was like, I gotta go. Like, she'd be so mad if I didn't go. So like one of my National Review colleagues, I don't know if it's like tickets to see the Pope. I don't know. I don't know how it goes.
Yeah.
But it was like the mass invited me. I sent an email out. She's like, do you want to come to the mass? And so I went and I cried in like a way I've never cried before when I was there. Where it was just like, I wasn't even really crying. There was just tears like coming down my face. Like so many, it was so intoxicating of a cry. It was so cathartic of a cry. So I've thought of like, was she there with me? But also it could be just so easily explained by her never being able to be there again with me. I don't know how people so confidently say they feel dead loved ones all the time, or are they just confident in saying they do? That door is very much open for me, and I do read about it, and I do hope to have these answers at some point, because I just don't, and like I'd be way happier if I did. Are you really? Are you like you are religious?
I am, and I grew up Catholic and still practicing.
Yeah.
But don't feel that I have to go to church every Sunday, which is controversial,
Yes,
right?
that's right. I had to go to church every Sunday.
No, I did growing up, but now,
Mm-hmm.
I have an incredible priest who literally gives he's so good. He's a former lobbyist on Capitol Hill, actually, and so he's a true orator who speaks and brings you in, and people of all ages, kids, old people, you name it. And he also will text me an article on something. He's like, so proud of you. This is BS. I'm like, you're the kind of priest that I like. Like, he's encouraged me to be me. I'm divorced. That I thought was going to for sure send me to hell. Right?
Yeah,
like,
no, the Catholic church I grew up in was like very like fire and brimstone-y.
Yes.
So
absolutely. And so there's so much judgment that goes along with it, judging myself. So it's been a real process, but I kind of refuse to be put in a box with that too. I will say my faith has saved me over the last 4 or 5 years from, work stuff to the decision to leave my marriage and a whole bunch of things that are freaking painful and don't just affect me. I have 3 kids, right? It certainly affects how people think of you. So I'll say this, I've never felt God more than I have in the last, I'd say, 8 to 10 years, where I was looking, but not like digging, had the core belief, but had never like really asked to go deep. And when I did, I wasn't quite prepared.
Yeah.
Like I felt it in ways that we will discuss over wine sometime.
Yeah.
Because it's a long story, but it's amazing. And I also think as a mother, I did want my kids and my ex-husband as well. We were really on the same page with most things. And with this, it's like we want to present them and introduce them to this. And yes, you're going to go to CCD, to Sunday school. You're going to do all those things and you're going to get confirmed and all that. Because when you're 12 or 13, like you make your own decision. Well, do you even have that true ability at that point? Kind of. I'm going to put you through what I believe, what we believe, and from there I will respect your decisions. And they're all on this journey right now. 1.5 of them, of the 3, really kind of believes.
Yeah.
And then the other's like, well, I don't know. Well, why would God let this happen or that happen? But I have moments, Kat, where I literally, indescribable, like what you hear people talk about, like white light.
Yeah.
I can't. It's another level. So, but I also have a couple friends who are atheist, complete atheist, not like atheist, Jewish, like all of it. And I love them because of those experiences, you know, but I think I would be dead right now without it.
Yeah. I mean, I'm so tempted to like purposely, and this is how you know I was raised Catholic, is like, I don't know if I believe in God, but I'm like still scared of demons.
Okay, yeah. There's something there, girl. Yes.
You know, I'm like, what if I purposely put myself in like a haunted house?
Yes.
And then like see something scary. Then I'll be like, there's something supernatural. But that's again not normal. Like that's not normal.
You tend to go all in, don't you?
Yes, I do.
Okay, well, where do you think your mom is?
I don't know. I have no idea. I can honestly say.
She believed that she was going to heaven.
1,000%. She said when she was dying, like the priest came for her last rites, and she was like, I'm going to heaven. She was like, but I'm worried about them. She pointed to me, my brother, my sister, my dad. And she was like, I want you to do their confessions. And he was like, we don't really do that. And she was like, I see an open office right over there. And he did. She made him do it.
I love her.
No, she was, she, like I said, like she was very, like social rules did not apply to this woman. Like we actually did, he did it. Like I'm sure he's never been asked that before or since. But she made it, he heard all of our confessions. And I did it. I told him, I'm like, I don't really believe this anymore, but like, what have I done? Everything. I've done, I've done a lot of things against that I'm not supposed to do in the past however many years since I've been here.
Yeah.
And I did it.
Well, and by the way, as a practicing Catholic, I don't do confession. So go ahead, shoot me.
Interesting.
It makes me very uncomfortable. I'm like,
it made me too uncomfortable.
Yes.
Especially
well,
when I was like
I guess
a kid.
That's normal. It's not a reason to not do it. I talk to my priest about a lot of things, and I talk to God all day long. So I don't know that I need, and again, controversial, I don't know that I need that
quite interesting to me.
that person to say, this is what I've done, because guess who already knows? To me, I feel like God already knows, and I have asked for forgiveness and admitted fault and asked for protection and help for me and those I love and the world, I don't know. And I know it's quote unquote wrong, but I don't care. This is part of what...
That's so interesting to me. No, it really is.
Yeah.
Because that's so much of like confession.
Am I a rebel?
That is, by definition, you are a rebel. By definition,
Can you see the rebel in me?
You are. No, you are. Of course
But I also feel like it took me years. I'm revealing way too much, but years and years.
I can have that effect on people sometimes.
Damn you! Shit.
I feel like I am too, though. To be fair, you do also have that effect on people.
Okay, good.
Yes.
I mean, which is never the goal. It's just when you can have the C word, when you can have a conversation, stuff comes out, and then like you sharing makes me look deeper into myself as well. But and this isn't from the Catholic Church. This is from a non-denominational Christian youth group I went to my senior year of high school and my first year of college. That had nothing to do with my parents. It was just I had some friends where I had just moved, and they're like, "Come," I was like, "Great," but it was very much like no sex before marriage.
Yeah,
none. And if you do, good luck.
Yeah.
And so for me, I married my first boyfriend. I know. Yeah. When you talk about not dating a lot, you're like, oh, good Lord. That's why now at 51, I don't know how to date. And I'm like, like, what do I do? I'll take any suggestions you can give me because I don't know how to, because I was with this person and a wonderful man from 20 to 47. Wow. But to forgive myself for not waiting till I was married, even though it was the person I married.
Wow.
It took a decade.
No, I struggled with that too.
To forgive myself.
I was still Catholic. And that, like, had sex with my high school boyfriend that I was with forever. And I was like, I'm going to hell.
So you did believe.
I'm going to hell. I was like, why can't I stop doing this? When I know I'm going to hell, like, you know what I mean? And then I would go and tell the priest I had sex with my boyfriend.
Oh, you told the priest?
Oh, yeah.
What would he say?
He'd like tell me to say some Hail Marys or whatever. And I just like, you know what I mean? But I'm like 17 years old, you know what I mean? I was like, and eventually.
So how'd you get over that? Because you've forgiven yourself.
I eventually stopped being Catholic. I eventually stopped being religious. And it wasn't because of that, but I had always had like questions and stuff. And I was like, I don't know that I should be going to eternal damnation. Because I went to like this very strict Catholic church. Like, you have sex before married, like you're in hell. Like,
yes.
If you don't go to confession, like let's say like you have sex with your boyfriend and then you're driving to confession, you get hit by a car. It doesn't matter. You're going to hell because you died before.
You didn't make
it there.
That's
what I was taught. So I was like,
it's so sad.
I don't know that that me having sex with my boyfriend who I love means I should have to suffer an eternal damnation.
Yes. But then there is the battle between, okay, I know it's wrong, and I've asked for forgiveness, but I'm going to go do it again.
But
And
I
I'm going to
couldn't
ask for
s- I-
more forgiveness. It's like, okay, how many times do you
Yeah.
ask for forgiveness before it's like, no, she really doesn't mean it. Now you're not going to be forgiven. Like, those are the things that go through your mind,
Yes.
right?
1000%. And then I eventually just kind of, that led me to not believe, because I just thought, like, I feel like I'm still like I don't deserve that for what I did.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like the punishment doesn't
haven't
fit doing something
killed
very
anybody.
normal, actually.
Yeah. Haven't murdered anybody here.
I haven't killed anybody.
Not yet. I mean, that might
No.
come at some point.
No, I don't have it in me. I have too much anxiety.
Do you want kids?
Yeah, I do.
You do?
Yeah. Yeah.
Are you trying? Are you?
Soon, I think. I
Really?
think we will, yeah.
Yeah. So then what about the faith aspect as a mother with
So
children?
we were both raised Catholic. We're both no longer Catholic. And it's like an open conversation. Like, he's more wants them to, and again, like, I have some, I was raised with a very strict Catholic, so I have some trauma from that, as we just discussed, so I'm like, no. But also, he thinks it's good, religion's good for kids. And I can see where he's coming from there too. So
You don't think it's good?
I think that the things that can be good, I think in theory, it wasn't good for me in certain ways. Certain things that I went through wasn't good for me to think I was bad doing normal stuff. Normally, especially like the sexual stuff,
Yeah.
like that's normal. And being like, you're going to hell forever. Like, that wasn't good.
I actually think because you've seen it all, you'll be a great mom in that way. Because you know what it's like to have some trauma. You also know the good. You know the effect it had on your mother. Like, you see it everywhere. But because you know what not to do, like to higher levels, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's no book for this, right?
Right.
But it's like to shame your daughter,
Right,
in
no,
high school.
would
Like
never.
you, right. So I actually feel like you're going to be really good.
Thank you. I mean, it's, like definitely in the works. We want to have kids. And it's like, it's so weird to be thinking about having kids and being a mom when I don't like remember what it's like to have one anymore. Like,
Wait,
I don't.
Kat.
I know that's like sad, and that doesn't mean I don't remember her, but the version of myself that had a mom is like, I don't remember like her. You know what I mean? Like, I don't remember what it's like to like call my mom. That's kind of like, and I have so many women in my life that are older than me that I can talk to about stuff that have, you know what I mean? It's not like I don't have, these people to reach out to, but it is very strange to me and a little disorienting to not be like, hey, like, how was this when you were pregnant with me? But, like, whenever I do get pregnant, what's crazy is like, if you're born with every egg that you ever have, that means that whatever egg becomes a child will have been in my mom.
Exactly.
That's crazy.
Exactly. Which is like, that's the part, things like that take me back to God.
Yeah.
Because to me, it's like, we didn't just appear and we're, magically all those eggs,
I understand why people feel it. Like, I get it.
But like, how beautiful that your mom will always continue in that way, Do you worry about those emotions when you do have a baby and, she's not there by your side?
Of course I do. Of course I do, but I mean, I've been through the ringer emotionally, so it's like, I'll figure it out.
You will.
And my husband is like, just like the best dude I've ever met. So.
And is his family, you're close to his family?
Yeah, they're great too.
Yeah.
So, and my family I'm close with, and my dad, I have like the best dad. I'm like really lucky to have such a great dad.
Yeah.
We're very close.
Did he remarry?
No, he has a long-term girlfriend though. And like, thank God. I mean, like, I'm very happy for him.
You are, and you like her.
I like her. We have a relationship too. I mean, we have a relationship too. When he first started dating her, it was so cute. He like didn't want to like say he was dating, but I wanted like that's so young, I knew that my dad was I don't want my dad to be alone at 57, be alone the rest of his life. He has so much life ahead of him, So when he started dating her, he was like, oh, the lady I ride bikes with. I was like, Dad.
It's all
like,
it
I'm
is,
not
Dad?
in kindergarten,
Do you pick
dude.
flowers too?
Right, exactly. I'm like, Dad, like, stop it. Because at first, when my mom died, he was coming to visit me in New York a lot, like, coming out with me and my friends. I was like, Dad, I need to like meet a man. Like, I need to have my own life too. It was like I wanted him to have that companionship. and think she's great. I mean, imagine if my dad like started dating someone younger than me and like,
Okay, that could be a thing.
who was horrible or like who was like mean, like that would, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
She's wonderful. I have my own relationship with talk one-on-one all the time, so thank God for that, honestly.
Yeah. So I'm picturing mom up here smiling down on you. Just my belief. I'm like, oh, she's coming through you in so many ways. And so she has witnessed in person and then after, right? The vermin in your apartment.
Yeah, she saw the vermin
in New York. Did she see you sleeping on your yoga mat out in LA, like with no money?
Yes.
So she witnessed all of that, and then you got hired at Fox 6 months later. You met your husband when?
So I met my husband in 2019. We started dating.
So 5 years ago, pretty recently.
Yeah.
You're an author of now 2 books?
2 books.
How many shows are you on at a time right now?
Well, just one, but I mean, I'm on Gutfeld every day.
Every day,
but then
but
it's
like-
also like, depends on the week.
Right.
Sporadically, I'm on other shows all the time, so.
I mean, you did Barstool. You've done so much in such a short time. Like, what would she be saying to you right now?
Yeah, I know. I think about that a lot. Like because she just missed, like, she saw me like be a guest on TV a few times. She saw it start to work. But she just missed, she wasn't here for all that. I think she definitely would be very proud of me. I know she would be proud of me because she saw how hard I worked and everything I went through. And I went through all these things fully not knowing that this would work. Moving to New York and trying to get on Fox and trying to get on TV and trying to be a writer. A lot of people try to do that,
Yeah. Not many people say, I'm going to be on Gutfeld.
Yeah.
And actually do it.
Yeah, and the next thing you know, I'm working for the guy, so like with him on the show.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you're the co-host. Like, I look at that and knowing the industry so well, just through my journey of almost 30 years now, like it's insane what you've been able to do. And I hope that through all of the things, right? And ups and downs emotionally and mental health and like that you can kind of pat yourself on the back every once in a while. Like, you freaking did it.
Thank you.
Like, and it's amazing. And you make people laugh, like crack up, smile, think, like in so many ways, because you have been really vulnerable. And that's what, conversation, the C word and the B word, like vulnerability. And when you're able to do that, it's not even able. I think everybody's able. Are you willing?
And it's scary.
Now I have to go. I'm going to go rethink my lack of going to confession thanks to you.
No, don't rethink it.
No, it is what it is. And at the end of the day, like, we're all on this journey. And when we're done here, you can give me tips because I've been trying to write a book for like 4 years and I keep running away.
It's hard.
I keep running away from it. It's
You gotta lean into it.
Well, and I'm vulnerable. It's just like, it makes my brain hurt.
Yeah, it does. That's normal.
Okay. Love you. Thank you.
You too. Thank you so much.